Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his face as he worked deep inside the crystal caves of Kepler 442b. The mining colony was small and quiet, just the way he liked it. He had been digging for rare metals for 3 years now, and each day brought new surprises from the planet's underground world. The cave walls sparkled with blue and green crystals that caught the light from his helmet. Jake pushed his drilling machine deeper into the rock wall, searching for the silver ore that made this planet valuable. The drill bit spun fast, sending small pieces of stone flying in all directions. Then something went wrong. The drill hit something that was not rock or metal. It made a strange sound, like metal hitting metal, but softer. Jake stopped the machine and looked at the wall. There was a hole in the rock, and through it he could see something that made his heart beat faster. It was not natural. It was not rock or crystal. It looked like it had been made by someone, but it was old, very old. Jake grabbed his light and pointed it into the hole. What he saw made him step back in shock. There was a room behind the wall, and in the center of that room stood something that looked like armor. But it was not like any armor Jake had ever seen. It was smooth and dark, with lines of silver running across its surface like rivers of light. The armor stood upright, as if someone was wearing it, but there was no one inside. Jake called the colony base on his radio. "This is Jake Morrison in Cave Section 7. I found something you need to see." The voice of Colony Commander Kate Davis came back through the static. "What did you find, Jake?" "I think I found some kind of old armor. It looks really old, but it is not broken. You need to send Dr. Carter down here right away." Within 2 hours, Dr. Lisa Carter arrived at the cave with her team of scientists. She was the colony's expert on old things found on planets. She had studied the remains of dead alien cities and broken machines from long ago. But when she saw the armor, her eyes went wide. "Jake, this is incredible," she said, walking slowly around the armor. "This is not from any known civilization. Look at these materials. My scanner cannot even tell me what this is made of." The armor was beautiful in a strange way. It was the size of a tall human, with a helmet that covered the whole head. The chest piece was smooth and curved, and the arms and legs were joined together perfectly. But the most amazing thing was how it seemed to move, even though it was standing still. The silver lines on its surface flowed like water, and the dark metal seemed to change color when they looked at it from different angles. Dr. Carter set up her equipment around the armor. "The energy readings are off the charts," she told her. "Team, this thing is still active. Who knows how many years?" Word about the discovery spread quickly through the galaxy's communication networks. Within a week, ships from different alien species began arriving at the colony. They all wanted to see the armor for themselves. The first to arrive was Ambassador Vexthol from the Zephyrian Empire. The Zephyrians were made of living crystal and were known for being very smart with technology. Vexthol was tall and thin, with blue crystal skin that reflected light in rainbow patterns. "This armor belongs to my people," Vexthol said when he saw it. "The design is clearly Zephyrian. We demand that it be turned over to the Empire immediately." But Dr. Carter had already studied the armor carefully. "Ambassador, this armor is much older than your empire. Our tests show it was made millions of years ago, long before the Zephyrians developed space travel." More alien delegations arrived each day. The Vorthan Collective sent their representatives, creatures that looked like giant insects with shared minds. The Draconian Empire sent warriors covered in scales and claws. The Luminari, beings made of pure energy, came in special containers that held their light forms. Each group claimed the armor, belonged to their ancestors. Each group demanded to study it or take it away. The small human colony became the center of the biggest political fight the galaxy had seen in years. Captain Alex, Turner of the Earth Defense Force was sent to keep the peace. He was a quiet man with steady hands and calm eyes. He had fought in several battles between human and alien forces, but he preferred talking to fighting. His job was to make sure no one started a war over the armor. Turner set up guards around the cave and made rules about who could visit the armor and when. He watched as scientist after scientist tried to understand what the armor was and how. It worked, but the more they studied it, the more mysterious it became. "It is like nothing we have ever seen," Dr. Carter told Turner during one of their evening talks. "The metal is not in any of our books. The energy it gives off does not match any known power source. And the way it seems to watch us ... She shook her head. "I know it sounds crazy, but I think this armor is alive." Turner had noticed the same thing. When he walked past the armor, he felt like it was looking at him. The helmet had no eyes, but somehow he knew it was aware of everything around it. Other people felt it too. Some of the alien visitors seemed nervous when they got close to it. The armor never moved, but it was never completely still either. The silver lines on its surface pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. Sometimes the patterns changed, creating new designs that no one could understand. When the scientists tried to take samples of the metal, their tools would not work. The armor seemed to push them away without any visible force. Days turned into weeks, and still no one could solve the mystery of the armor. The alien delegations grew more impatient. Some threatened to take the armor by force. Others offered huge amounts of money to buy it. But the armor itself remained silent and still, waiting for something that no one could understand. Turner found himself spending more and more time in the cave, just watching the armor. There was something about it that called to him, something that made him want to reach out and touch it. But he held back. He had seen what happened to others who got too close. The armor was waiting for something or someone. Turner was sure of it. But what was it waiting for? And why did he feel like it was waiting for him? The first alien to try touching the armor was Engineer Crixtel from the Zephyrian Empire. He was their best technology expert, with crystal fingers that could work with any machine. Ambassador Vexthul believed that if anyone could understand the armor, it would be KRIX single quotes tall. Captain Turner watched from a safe distance as the crystal being approached the armor. Dr. Carter had her recording equipment ready, and several other alien observers stood nearby. Everyone was quiet, waiting to see what would happen. Crixtal moved slowly toward the armor. His crystal body reflected the cave lights, creating dancing patterns on the walls. When he was 3 feet away from the armor, something changed. The silver lines on the armor's surface began to glow brighter, and a low humming sound filled the cave. "Fascinating," Crixtal said, reaching out with one crystal finger. "The energy patterns are responding to my presence." The moment his finger touched the armor, everything went wrong. A bright flash of light filled the cave, and Crixtal was thrown backward through the air. He hit the cave wall hard, and several of his crystal fingers broke off and scattered across the floor. The armor surface now showed strange symbols that seemed to move and change. Dr. Carter quickly took pictures, but when she looked at them later, the symbols were different in each photo. "What did you do to it?" Ambassador Vexthul demanded, rushing to help Crixtal. "I only touched it," Crixtal said, his voice weak. "It felt like it was judging me, and then it pushed me away with great force." The next day, the Vorthan Collective decided to try their approach. They were insects that shared one mind across thousands of bodies. Their leader, Queen Zara Mind, believed that their mental connection would let them understand the armor better than any single being could. Turner watched as hundreds of Vorthan drones surrounded the armor. They did not try to touch it. Instead, they focused their shared mind on it, trying to read its thoughts or control its power. For a moment, It seemed like their plan might work. The armor's glow became steadier, and the humming sound grew louder. But then something went wrong again. The armor sent out a wave of mental energy that hit all the Vorthan drones at once. The effect was immediate and terrible. All the drones began to shake and buzz in confusion. Their shared mind was broken, and each drone was alone in its own thoughts for the first time in its life. Queen Zaramind collapsed, her connection to her people cut off by the armor's power. "Make it stop," she screamed, holding her head in her hands. "I cannot hear my children." It took 3 days for the Vorthan collective to recover. When they did, they packed up their equipment and left the planet immediately. Queen Zaramind never spoke about what she had felt when the armor touched her mind. General Thoktar of the Draconian Empire was not scared by what happened to the others. He was a warrior who had never lost a battle, and he believed that strength could overcome any obstacle. His scales were black and red, and his claws could cut through steel. "These others are weak," he told Turner. "They try to understand the armor with their minds. I will take it with my strength." Turner tried to warn him, but Thoktar would not listen. He marched up to the armor with confidence, his claws ready to grab it and carry it away. Unlike the others, the armor let him get close. Thoktar reached out with both hands, ready to lift the armor and claim it for his empire. But when his claws touched the metal, something strange happened. The armor began to melt. Not from heat, but like it was becoming liquid. Thoktar's claws passed right through the metal, and the armor flowed away from his touch like water. He tried to grab it again and again, but every time his claws got close, the armor would melt and reform just out of reach. "What kind of trick is this?" Thoktar roared, slashing at the armor with all his strength. His claws left no mark on the metal, which had become solid again. The armor seemed to be playing with him, letting him think he could touch it, and then flowing away at the last second. After an hour of trying, Thoktar gave up in frustration and anger. He had never been defeated in battle, but the armor had made him look foolish without even fighting back. The Luminari were the last to try. They were beings of pure energy who had given up physical bodies long ago. They thought that since they were not made of matter, they might be able to connect with the armor in a way that the others could not. 3 Luminari came in their special containers, glowing like small suns. They opened their containers and floated toward the armor as balls of light. Turner had to put on dark glasses to look at them directly. The Luminari tried to merge their energy with the armor's power. They surrounded it with their light, pressing closer and closer. But the armor did something that surprised everyone. It became completely dark, as if it was absorbing all the light around it. The Luminari's energy was pulled into the armor like water going down a drain. They struggled to break free, but the armor held them tight. For a moment, Turner thought the armor was going to consume them completely. But then it released them all at once, sending them flying back to their containers. When the Luminari recovered, they were much dimmer than before. They had lost some of their energy to the armor, and they would need weeks to regain their full power. Like the others, they left the planet quickly, warning other energy beings to stay away from the armor. Dr. Carter recorded everything that happened. She noticed that the armor reacted differently to each species. It had burned the Zephyrians, confused the Vorthans, mocked the Draconians, and drained the Luminari. Each rejection seemed designed specifically for that species. "It is like the armor knows exactly what each species fears most," she told Turner. "It tests them and finds them wanting." More species tried over the following weeks. The aquatic Nexlari sent their best swimmer, but the armor created a field that dried up all the water around it. The plant-like Verdans sent their eldest tree speaker, but the armor made the air too cold for plants to survive. The machine race called the Synthetics sent their most advanced robot, but the armor created an electromagnetic pulse that shut down all electronics nearby. Every species that tried to claim the armor was rejected. Some were thrown back by force, others were confused or frightened away. But all of them failed to make any real contact with the ancient artifact. The alien delegations began to lose interest. Some said the armor was just a trap left by some dead civilization. Others thought it was broken and not worth studying. A few believed it was cursed and should be destroyed. Maybe it is not meant for any of us, Ambassador Vexthul said during one of the evening meetings. Maybe it is just a museum piece, something to look at, but never to use. But Turner did not agree. He had watched every attempt to claim the armor, and he had seen how it reacted to each species. The armor was not broken or cursed. It was waiting. It was testing everyone who came near it, looking for something specific. The question was, what was it looking for? And why did Turner feel more and more sure that he knew the answer? As the days passed, Turner found himself drawn to the armor more and more. He would stand in the cave for hours, just watching it. The other humans on the colony began to worry about him. Dr. Carter asked if he was feeling well. Commander Davis suggested he take some time off, but Turner could not stay away. Something about the armor called to him, something that grew stronger every day. He began to have dreams about it, dreams where the armor spoke to him without words, showing him images of stars and planets and civilizations that had been dead for millions of years. The armor was waiting for someone. Turner was sure of it. But who? And what would happen when that someone finally arrived? After 3 months of failures, most of the alien delegations had given up and left. Kepler 442b, the cave that had once been crowded with scientists and diplomats, was now quiet. Only a few researchers remained, and they seemed more interested in writing reports than studying the armor. "It is just an old piece of metal," one of the remaining Zephyrian scientists said. "We have wasted too much time on this mystery." Ambassador Vexthul prepared to leave as well. "The Galactic Council will classify this as a historical curiosity," he told Dr. Carter. "It will be protected, but no one will be allowed to study it anymore." Captain Turner listened to these conversations with growing frustration. He knew the armor was more than just old metal. Every day he spent near it, he felt more connected to it. The armor seemed to respond to his presence differently than it had to the aliens. When he walked past it, the silver lines glowed softer, and the humming sound became almost musical. On the night before the last alien delegation was scheduled to leave, Turner could not sleep. He found himself walking through the quiet corridors of the colony base, his feet carrying him toward the cave without conscious thought. The night guards nodded to him as he passed. They were used to his late visits to the armor. The cave was empty except for Dr. Carter's equipment and the armor itself. Turner stood in the doorway, looking at the ancient artifact that had caused so much trouble. In the dim light, it seemed almost alive, the silver lines pulsing slowly like a heartbeat. Turner walked closer, something he had never done before. He had always kept his distance, following the safety rules that had been set up after the first alien attempts. But tonight felt different. Tonight, the armor seemed to be calling to him more strongly than ever. He stopped 3 feet away from the armor, the same distance where all the aliens had first felt its power. But nothing happened. No bright lights, no humming sounds, no force pushing him away. The armor just stood there, waiting. Turner took another step forward. Still nothing. The armor remained calm, its silver lines glowing softly. He could feel warmth coming from it, not the burning heat that had hurt the Zephyrians, but a gentle warmth like sunlight. "What are you?" Turner whispered, reaching out his hand slowly. The moment his fingers touched the armor, everything changed. The metal was warm and smooth, and it felt almost alive under his touch. The silver lines began to glow brighter, But instead of the harsh light that had blinded the aliens, it was a soft golden glow that made Turner feel peaceful. Then the armor began to move. Not all at once, but slowly, like thick liquid. It flowed over Turner's hand and up his arm, but he felt no fear. The metal felt right against his skin, like it belonged there. Images flooded Turner's mind. He saw a vast galaxy filled with stars and planets, and creatures unlike anything he had ever imagined. He saw great cities that reached toward the sky, and ships that sailed between the stars. He saw the rise and fall of civilizations, the birth and death of species, the endless cycle of life in the universe. And through it all, he felt the presence of the armor's creators. They called themselves the Builders, and they had traveled the galaxy long before humans had even learned to use fire. They were explorers and teachers, seeking to understand the universe and share their knowledge with others. But the Builders had made a mistake. They had grown too proud, too sure of their own wisdom. They had tried to force their knowledge on other species, to make them all think and act like builders. The result had been war, death, and the collapse of their great civilization. Before they died out, the Builders had created the armor as a test and a gift. They had programmed it to search for a species that could learn from their mistakes, a species that valued diversity instead of uniformity, cooperation instead of conquest. Turner understood now why the armor had rejected all the aliens. Each species had approached it with the desire to use its power for their own advantage. The Zephyrians wanted its technology. The Vorthans wanted to control it. The Draconians wanted to conquer with it. But the armor was not meant to be used by any single species. The armor was meant to be a bridge, a way to bring different species together. And it had chosen Turner because humans had something the other species lacked, the ability to work with others who were different from them. As the armor covered more of Turner's body, he felt his strength and speed increasing. His mind became clearer, able to process information faster than ever before. But more importantly, he felt a deep connection to all living things, an understanding that diversity was not a weakness, but a strength. The armor finished covering Turner's body, fitting him perfectly. He looked down at himself and saw that he was now wearing the ancient artifact. It felt as natural as his own skin, responding to his thoughts and movements without delay. Turner heard footsteps at the cave entrance. Dr. Carter stood there, her eyes wide with shock and fear. "Alex, what have you done?" she whispered. Turner turned to face her, and she gasped. The armor made him look taller and stronger, but his eyes were still the same kind eyes she had always known. "I am still me, Lisa," Turner said, his voice slightly different now, deeper and more musical. "The armor has not changed who I am. It has just shown me who I could become." Dr. Carter approached carefully, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. "How does it feel?" she asked. "Like I have been incomplete my whole life, and now I am whole," Turner replied. "The armor is not just a tool or a weapon. It is a teacher, a guide. It carries the knowledge and wisdom of an entire civilization." Turner closed his eyes and accessed the armor's memories. He saw the history of the galaxy, the rise and fall of countless species, the patterns that led to success or failure. He saw the mistakes that the Builders had made and the lessons they had learned too late. The Builders created this armor because they knew their civilization was ending, Turner explained to Dr. Carter. They wanted to pass on their knowledge to someone who could use it better than they had. They programmed it to wait for a species that could unite others instead of ruling them. Dr. Carter nodded slowly. "And it chose humans. It chose you. It chose humans because we are young enough to learn, old enough to have wisdom, and diverse enough to understand that differences make us stronger," Turner said. "We are not the smartest species in the galaxy, or the strongest, or the most advanced. But we are the ones who can bring others together. As Turner spoke, the armor began to glow brighter. The golden light filled the cave, and Turner felt the armor's power flowing through him. He could sense every living thing on the planet, from the smallest microbe to the largest creature. He could feel the minds of the humans in the colony, sleeping peacefully in their beds. But he could also sense something else. Far above the planet, alien ships were gathering. Word of what had happened was spreading through the galaxy, and many species were afraid. They saw the armor as a threat to the balance of power that had kept the galaxy stable for thousands of years. "We have to tell the others," Dr. Carter said. "The colony, the Earth Defense Force, everyone needs to know what happened." Turner nodded. "They need to know, but they also need to understand. The armor is not a weapon to be used for conquest. It is a responsibility to be shared." As the sun rose over Kepler 442b, Turner stood in the cave wearing the armor that had waited millions of years for him. He felt the weight of ancient knowledge on his shoulders, but also the hope of a better future. The armor had found its match in humanity, and now it was up to Turner to prove that the builders had chosen wisely. Real test was just beginning. The armor had accepted Turner, but would the galaxy accept what he was meant to become? And could he use the armor's power to unite the stars instead of conquering them? Turner looked up at the sky, where alien ships were already beginning to arrive. The armor pulsed with warm light, ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. The waiting was over. Now it was time to show the galaxy what humans could do when they were given the tools to build bridges instead of walls. The news of Turner's bonding with the armor spread across the galaxy faster than light. Within days, the small mining colony was surrounded by ships from dozens of species. Some came out of curiosity, others out of fear, and many came ready for. War Ambassador Vexthul returned to the colony with a full diplomatic team and a squadron of Zephyrian warships. His crystal face showed no emotion, but Turner could sense his anger and jealousy through the armor's enhanced perception. "Captain Turner," Vexthul said when they met in the colony's main hall, "the Galactic Council demands that you surrender the armor immediately. No single species should possess such power." Turner stood calmly, the armor making him appear taller and more imposing than before. The golden light that flowed through the silver lines was soft, but impossible to ignore. "The armor cannot be surrendered," Turner replied. "It is not a weapon, or a tool that can be passed from one being to another. It is a living bond, a partnership between the wearer and the knowledge of the builders." General Thoktar of the Draconian Empire stepped forward, his scales dark with anger. "Then we will take it from your dead body," he growled. "No human will have power over the Draconian Empire." Turner felt the armor's power flow through him, but he did not respond with violence. Instead, he reached out with his enhanced senses and touched the minds of everyone in the room. He did not invade their thoughts or try to control them. He simply let them feel what he felt. The deep sadness of the builders as their civilization fell, the hope they had placed in the armor, and the responsibility Turner now carried. The effect was immediate. Even General Thoktar stepped back, his expression changing from anger to confusion. "What did you do to us?" he demanded. "I showed you the truth," Turner said. "The armor is not meant to rule or conquer. It is meant to teach and protect. The builders learned too late that power without wisdom leads to destruction." Dr. Carter, who had been studying the armor's effects on Turner, stepped forward. "Captain Turner is right," she said. "The armor has been sharing its memories with us. I have seen the history of the galaxy, the rise and fall of civilizations, the patterns that lead to success or failure." She activated a holographic display that showed images from the armor's memory. The assembled diplomats and generals watched in silence as they saw the builders' civilization at its peak. Beautiful cities, advanced technology, and a galaxy united under their rule. But then the images changed. They saw the rebellion of the conquered species, the wars that tore the galaxy apart, and the final collapse of the builder civilization. The last image showed the armor being hidden on a distant planet, waiting for someone worthy to find it. The builders created this armor because they knew they had failed, Dr. Carter explained. They had all the power in the galaxy, but they could not keep it because they tried to force other species to be like them. The armor was programmed to choose a species that could learn from their mistakes. Ambassador Vexthill's crystal body dimmed as he processed this information. And it chose humans, he said quietly. It chose humans because we are different, Turner said. We are not the strongest or smartest species, but we have something the others lack, the ability to work with beings who are different from us. We form alliances, not empires. We seek cooperation, not conquest. But not everyone was convinced. Captain Rexstar of the Vorthen Collective spoke up, his insect-like voice buzzing with suspicion. How do we know this is not a trick? How do we? No, you will not use the armor to conquer us all? Turner nodded, understanding their fear. You are right to be suspicious, he said. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. But the armor will not let me use it for evil purposes. It has safeguards built into it, lessons learned from the builder's mistakes. To demonstrate, Turner tried to use the armor's power, to attack one of the alien guards. But the armor resisted, its golden light flickering and dimming. Pain shot through Turner's body, and he stumbled backward. The armor punishes me when I try to use it for harm, Turner explained, breathing heavily. It will only respond to actions that protect and unite, not actions that hurt or divide. Dr. Carter nodded. We have been studying this effect. The armor seems to judge Turner's intentions and blocks any hostile actions. It is like having a conscience built into the technology. Some of the aliens began to look less hostile, but others remained suspicious. General Thoktar crossed his arms and glared at Turner. Pretty words, he said, but actions speak louder than words. Prove that you can be trusted with such power. Turner thought for a moment and walked to the center of the room. I will show you something that the armor has revealed to me, he said. Something that will change how we all think about the galaxy. Turner closed his eyes and accessed the armor's deepest memories. Golden light filled the room, and suddenly everyone present could see what Turner saw. The genetic records of thousands of extinct species, stored in the armor's memory. Banks. The builders did not just create the armor, Turner said, his voice filled with wonder. They created a library, a repository of all the species they encountered in their travels. Every race that ever lived, every civilization that ever rose and fell, their knowledge is preserved here. The aliens stared in amazement as they saw the records of their own ancestors, species that had died out long before their current civilizations had begun. They saw the diversity of life in the galaxy, the incredible variety of forms that intelligence could take. This is why the armor chose humanity, Turner continued. Not to rule the galaxy, but to preserve its diversity. The builders realized too late that their greatest mistake was trying to make everyone the same. The armor is meant to celebrate differences, not eliminate them. Turner opened his eyes and looked at each of the assembled aliens. The armor has shown me that we are all connected, all part of the same galactic community. Human, Zephyrian, Vorthen, Draconian, Luminari. We are all children of the same stars, all part of the same cosmic family. The room was silent for a long moment. Then Ambassador Vexthill spoke, his voice softer than before. What do you propose we do with this knowledge? Turner smiled, the armor's golden light growing brighter. We use it to build something better than what came before. Not an empire ruled by one species, but a true alliance where every species contributes their strengths. The armor can help us understand each other, learn from each other, grow together. But Even as some aliens began to consider Turner's words, others were already planning their response. Outside the colony, General Thoktar's ships were joined by vessels from other hostile species. They saw the armor as a threat to their power, and they were preparing to take it by force. Dr. Carter noticed the military buildup through the colonies. Sensors. "Alex," she said quietly, "we have a problem. More than half the ships in orbit are taking aggressive positions. I think they are planning to attack." Turner nodded grimly. He had hoped that showing the armor's true purpose would convince the aliens to work together. But fear and greed were powerful motivators, and many species would rather destroy the armor than let humans keep it. "The armor showed me this would happen," Turner said. "The builders faced the same choice: use their power to defend themselves, or find another way. They chose to fight, and it destroyed them. So what do we do?" Dr. Carter asked. Turner looked around the room at the mix of friendly and hostile aliens. "We prove that humanity can do better than the builders," he said. "We show the galaxy that the armor chose correctly." The armor pulsed with warm light, responding to Turner's determination. The real test was about to begin. Could one human with ancient technology unite a galaxy that had been divided for thousands of years? Or would the armor's power be just another cause for war? Turner looked up at the sky, where alien warships were preparing for battle. The armor had given him incredible power, but power alone would not be enough. He would need wisdom, courage, and most importantly, the ability to show his enemies that cooperation was stronger than conquest. The galaxy was about to learn what humans could do when they refused to give up hope. The battle for Kepler 442b began at dawn. General Thoktar led a fleet of draconian warships down toward the colony, their weapons charged and ready. Behind them came ships from 6 other species who had decided that the armor was too dangerous to leave in human hands. Turner stood on the colony's landing platform, watching the enemy ships approach. The armor around him glowed with golden light, and he felt the power of the builders flowing through his body. But he also felt their sadness, their regret at the wars they had caused. "I will not make the same mistakes," Turner said quietly. First draconian ship opened fire, sending bright energy beams toward the colony. Turner raised his hand, and the armor created a shield of golden light that absorbed the attack. The energy was converted into harmless light that scattered across the sky like fireworks. "Impressive," General Thoktar's voice came over the radio. "But how long can you keep that up?" More ships joined the attack, firing from different angles. Turner moved faster than any human had ever moved before, the armor enhancing his reflexes and strength. He deflected beam after beam, protecting the colony buildings and the civilians inside. But Turner did not fight back. Instead, he spoke to the attacking ships, his voice carried by the armor's power to every pilot in the fleet. "I know you are afraid," he said. "You think the armor will make humans too powerful, that we will become like the builders and try to rule over you. But that is not what we want." A Vorthan ship fired its weapons, and Turner caught the energy beam in his hands, crushing it like a physical object. "I could destroy your ships," he said. "The armor has that power. But destroying you would not prove that humans deserve this responsibility." Turner jumped into the air, the armor allowing him to fly through space without a ship. He landed on the hull of the nearest draconian vessel, and the crew inside panicked. Their weapons could not penetrate the armor, and they expected him to tear their ship apart. Instead, Turner placed his hand on the hull and sent a gentle pulse of energy through the ship. The crew felt a warm sensation, and suddenly they could see what Turner saw: the memories of the builders, the history of the galaxy, and the vision of what could be. "I am not your enemy," Turner said, his voice reaching into their minds. "I am your protector." The draconian crew stopped firing. Their captain, A young warrior named Kethter spoke over the radio with confusion in his voice. "What did you do to us?" "I showed you the truth," Turner replied. "The armor does not want to conquer. It wants to preserve. It wants to protect the diversity that makes our galaxy beautiful." Turner flew to the next ship, and the next, touching each one with the armor's power. He did not hurt anyone or destroy anything. Instead, he shared the armor's memories, letting each crew see the bigger picture of galactic history. Some ships stopped attacking immediately. Others hesitated, their crews arguing among themselves about what they had seen. But a few continued to fire, their leaders too proud or too afraid to change their minds. General Thoktar was one of these. His massive battleship kept firing at Turner, even as the human moved through space like a golden comet. "I do not care about your visions," Thoktar roared. "Power is power, and humans are too weak to handle it." Turner flew directly toward Thoktar's ship, dodging the energy beams that filled the space around him. He landed on the bridge and walked through the reinforced walls as if they were air. The armor allowed him to phase through solid matter when necessary. Thoktar drew his ceremonial sword and charged at Turner. The blade was made of the hardest metal in the Draconian Empire, sharp enough to cut through starship armor. But when it struck Turner's chest, it shattered like glass. Turner caught Thoktar by the wrist, not hard enough to hurt him, but firm enough to stop his attack. "General," Turner said quietly, "I know you think strength is the only thing that matters, but the strongest civilization in galactic history fell because they forgot that true strength comes from unity, not domination." Turner placed his other hand on Thoktar's forehead. The general's eyes went wide as he saw the fall of the Builder Empire, the way their strength had become weakness when they tried to rule everyone else. He saw civilizations that had lasted for millions of years because they learned to work together, instead of fighting each other. When the vision ended, Thoktar staggered backward. His sword arm trembled, not from fear, but from understanding. "I have been wrong," he whispered. "All this time, I thought conquest was the path to greatness. But it is the path to destruction." Turner nodded. "The armor taught me the same lesson. Power without wisdom is meaningless. Strength without compassion is empty." The battle ended as suddenly as it had begun. One by one, the attacking ships stopped firing and moved to peaceful positions. Some captains contacted their home worlds to report what they had experienced. Others requested permission to land on the colony and speak with Turner directly. Within hours, the space around Kepler 442b was filled with ships from across the galaxy. But instead of a war fleet, it had become a gathering of curiosity and hope. Species that had been enemies for centuries found themselves talking to each other, sharing the visions that Turner had shown them. Ambassador Vexthil was among the first to land. His crystal body glowed with new understanding as he approached. Turner in the colony's main hall. "Human Turner," he said formally, "the Zephyrian Empire withdraws its claim to the armor. We see now that it was never meant for any single species to possess." Other ambassadors made similar statements. The Vorthan Collective, the Luminari, even some of the more aggressive species declared that they would not try to take the armor. I forced Dr. Carter watched these events with amazement. "Alex," she said privately to Turner, "what you did out there? How did you know it would work?" Turner smiled, the armor's golden light reflecting in his eyes. "I did not know," he admitted. "But the armor showed me that the builders had tried to solve every problem with force. I had to try something different." Over the following days, Turner worked with representatives from dozens of species to create something new, the Galactic Preservation Alliance. Unlike the old empires, this alliance would be based on cooperation rather than conquest. Each species would contribute their unique strengths to preserve the diversity of life in the galaxy. The armor began to create smaller devices, one for each species that joined the alliance. These devices did not give the same power as the main armor, but they allowed different species to understand each other better, to share knowledge and work together more effectively. Jake Morrison, the prospector who had first found the armor, watched the alliance form with wonder. "I was just looking for silver ore," he told Turner. "I never thought I would change the galaxy." Turner laughed. "You did not change the galaxy, Jake. You gave it the chance to change itself." Months passed, and the Galactic Preservation Alliance grew stronger. Old enemies became partners. Wars that had lasted for centuries came to peaceful ends. The armor's knowledge helped solve problems that had seemed impossible. Diseases were cured, environmental disasters were prevented, and extinct species were brought back to life using the genetic records stored in the armor's memory. Turner traveled from world to world, always accompanied by representatives from multiple species. He had become not a ruler, but a mediator, helping different groups find common ground and work together. The armor had changed him in ways beyond just physical enhancement. He could see the connections between all living things, the patterns that linked one species to another. He understood that diversity was not a source of conflict, but a source of strength. General Thoktar, now a reformed warrior, worked with Turner to establish peacekeeping forces made up of soldiers from many species. "I spent my life learning to fight," he told Turner. "Now I am learning to protect." Dr. Carter continued to study the armor's effects, documenting how it was changing not just Turner, but the entire galaxy. "It is like the armor is healing old wounds," she wrote in her reports. "Species that have hated each other for thousands of years are learning to work together." The final test came when the armor revealed its ultimate secret, in a ceremony attended by representatives from every species in the Alliance. Turner accessed the deepest level of the armor's memory. What he found there made him weep with joy. The builders were not extinct. They had hidden themselves in the armor's memory banks, waiting for someone worthy to find them. When Turner opened the final memory storage, the consciousness of the last builder emerged. Her name was Lyethara, and she had been the last leader of the builder civilization. She appeared as a hologram made of golden light, her form shifting between different species as she spoke. "Young human," she said to Turner, "you have done what my people could not. You have brought unity without conquest, strength without oppression. The armor has found its true purpose in your hands." Turner bowed respectfully. "We have learned from your mistakes, honored builder. We will not repeat them." Lyethara smiled. "Then our long vigil is ended. The galaxy is in good hands." Years later, Turner stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, a massive space station built by the combined efforts of 47 different species. Through the windows, he could see ships from across the galaxy working together on peaceful missions, exploring new worlds, helping struggling civilizations.